Welcome back, Warriors. Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2, the 1% Club. Hope you enjoyed our morning chat, the one I did before this one. We have always great comments from our listeners, and before I always forget, sometimes I don't even put a donation PayPal in there, but please go ahead and donate and subscribe and like and comment. I get involved so much in just trying to get this information out that I forget about a lot of those things at times. So once again, I wanted to do this one pretty quickly because one of our great viewers and commenters, OGAirmaxes, again, and I want to shout out to OG, thank you so much. Some great comments that OG just made, focusing on a great actor of past years in the old and golden age of movies. And I wanted to kind of focus on this. Sidney Poitier, who was somebody that I watched as a kid, especially I think in the movie Sir with Love. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me, guys, if I'm wrong on that. But it was one of my favorite movies back in I was younger. Now, it was in the 62, 63, something like that. And I think it was sung by one of the songs by Lulu. I think she was the singer who sang the title song of the movie. I may be incorrect on that, but he was a great actor, and he passed away at 94. And so the point she's making, which is an excellent point, is that men can also live long. Now, women tend to live a lot longer. I believe a lot of times, in research I've seen over the years, is focusing more on the idea that women tend to have more social circles, networking, those type of things. And so they have people that they can kind of bond with. Most males, especially in the old days, focusing more on their jobs, didn't really have a chance to kind of develop a lot of those. And if they don't have any hobbies, I think the average age that I see that people live past retirements, maybe 6-7 years. So by the time they're in their 70s, 72, 73, then they struggle. And so I think OG's making a great point here by saying men and women can live longer. There's a great video, and I think a few people have mentioned it to me, and I've watched a few times, of this 95-year-old man talking about the fact that one of the reasons he lives so long is because he has not expended his energy, all these times and all these years. And the worst thing you do is go around, if you're a young male, and be chasing women around. So I mean, it's kind of funny in some ways, but it's very realistic, and to me very applicable to people who are trying to do the things we're trying to do, is get success and be happy and those type of things. So a shout out to you, OG, again, making some great comments. And I want to kind of focus a little bit on Sidney for a few minutes here, and I may even title this one Sidney Poitier. And thanks to OG on this one, bringing this person up. And once again, if you do have ideas and people that you want me to talk about, I will. I think in this case, I'm not sure if Sidney, as well, I think OG said this as well, I'm not sure if he practiced semen retention, but my guess is he would have. And I could say this in a couple different ways and reasons why. First of all, any successful person, and I even said this about Tupac, even though people tend to go off in different ways with their energy, and some can be helpful, and some can lead to your downfall. And I think it's how you use the energy. I think we're all born with this energy. God gives us this energy. Now the question is, how do you use this energy? And for someone to live a life like that, especially not in the public eye, and I don't recall with Sidney Poitier, I don't recall any negative stories. Now, it's been a long time, so he's 94, so it's been many, many years since he did, and I think he was in his 20s, so we're talking 70 years ago. I think he first started acting and those type of things. So I'm not totally sure, but I'm guessing as well that because he never had a lot of Hollywood scandals and things like that, that he really wasn't involved in a lot of those type of things. Now, I'd be wrong, and I probably should do a little research on Sidney, but I think I wanted to hit this one because not so much the idea of Sidney, even though he's a great example of it. I want to kind of talk a little bit about the idea of temptation and the fact that you can avoid temptation and not get involved in a lot of these scandals. Now, Hollywood, especially back in the old days, was festered with all kinds of temptation. And it's almost like Babylon. And you think they used to call, it was a movie called, or something like this, called Hollywood Babylon. And there's a reason for that. Maybe it's a video or something like that I think I saw. It talks about how it's very difficult not to get involved. Once you're inside that society, and I've known people in that society, that it's very hard to break away. It's almost like a cult or something like that, because you get involved in that, and all of a sudden now you're tied to that. And it may not come back to hurt you now, but one day they're going to want you to be involved in activities that they are in. And it's very difficult to get away from that. And I think when you're looking at this type of situation, you're saying to yourself, okay, the money is great, and it's wonderful, and I can have a nice family and kids and things like that. But what am I giving up for that? What am I giving up for that? That's the crucial part of it. And when you look at this, the whole idea that you're giving up your soul and you're making a pact with the devil, in a sense, really talks about the fact that, well, is this worth in the long run? It may be worth it for a number of years, a few years, but in the long run, you're going to pay the price. And that's the key, my friends, to realize long-term type thinking here instead of short-term. Do you really want to be paying for this decision you made when the money is used up? You don't have the money anymore, or even if you do have the money, you're still going to have to do a lot of these things that you don't want to do, because in a sense you've bought into this system. And that's why Hollywood is can be a very dangerous place. There's a lot of good people there, but there's a lot of other people who struggle with a lot of these type of temptations. And drugs, alcohol, these things, and OG mentioned these things as well in her message. When you have a lot of these things, they're around you, they're all there to kind of spike up people's attitudes, feelings, those type of things. I remember back in the 60s, there was a man, Timothy Leary, and a few other researchers who said they wanted you to kind of zone out and try LSD and all these type of things to get these feelings, because it made you more creative. And this is always the argument people make with drugs. But guys, with every drug you take, I don't care what the drug is, there's always a side effect of these type of things. And so this is why it's very important to realize it. Now, what other types of things can be a drug? Well, obviously this porn, this images, all these things are a type of drug that people get used to, and people are habit forming. We are a habit forming kind of being. And so when we see things, we want to continue doing things. So when you go to Hollywood places and go to the Hollywood parties, well, what do you got? You have a lot of, drugs. You have a lot of sex going on. You have a lot of things going on there, because it's really more of a matter of control. Who is connected to who? Who's making connections? Who's giving things? And we've seen this. We've seen this, unfortunately, in situations that we see with people recently, talking about deviant type behaviors, right? Not only with adults, but with all kinds of other people. And the type of thing is that we're talking about, all this becomes a temptation for people. All these people are really focusing on this group clique that they're in, and when they look at this, they say, okay, for me to fit in, and if I really want to make money, if I want to do these things, I have to kind of go along with all this. And they're not strong enough to say, okay, I'm not going to do it. I don't care what the cost is, I'm not going to do it. So that's why when you look at this, my friends, warriors are in a tough position, because obviously it's very difficult to be in Hollywood and some other areas if you're not a person who is a celibate person. If you're a person who's believing in brahmacharya, Hollywood is a tough place. And so here's an example of Sidney Poitier, and I'm not sure what he practiced. I don't have that type of information with me at the moment. I could probably look it up and kind of try to find out. But I think that OG mentions a great point. He lived 94 years, and that shows you that beyond genetics, there's things you can do. And I believe he didn't have a lot of these affairs. And at least I didn't read about a lot of them. he was a person's name that never came up in a lot of things that I looked at over the years. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and if I am, please, one of you guys just kind of, share that with me. But I think the idea that a person can live that long and practice those type of things, obviously is a person who probably has a strong faith. That's another thing I don't know, but he probably has a strong faith. He probably did. He was a person who believed and had good values, and he chose acting as a career. And whether you're an actor or an actress, those type of things are things that you have to think about. And you realize that if you're in those areas, just like environments I've been in, they're very toxic. And what I mean by toxic is a lot of immoral behaviors and people doing anything they can do to get ahead and hurting themselves, hurting other people, those type of things. So I think that this is a great example of what we're talking about, is that you have to be aware of the power that you have to overcome the environment you're in. The environment is something that it can affect you, and especially if you want to get something. A lot of people sell out their idea of fame and these type of things for that, and then they figure out years later that they hurt themselves a lot more than help themselves by doing these type of things, because they sold themselves out in their soul, and now they're still paying for it years later, even though they got their money, and maybe they still have it, maybe they don't. And so what ends up happening is that now they're beholden, or now they're kind of they have to give in to people who have given them those breaks and kind of repay them back. And these are types of things that you see in all areas of life. Corrupt people, evil people, and I'm not going to call them necessarily evil all the time, because I think some people are just not aware of the things they do. They're very self-centered. But here again, I'm not a person to judge each individual. I kind of just talking about a general type of person who is a self-centered person. They're not realizing that everybody they hurt is like a boomerang, because I believe all our energies are connected. And if you hurt people, the karma you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, it's going to come back on you. And that's the type of thing you're looking at. And when you talk about releasing your energy, having intercourse with someone, let's examine that for a quick second here. When you're talking about in these parties and things like that, these people don't really care about each other. They're basically doing it for another reason. Whatever that reason might be, they go ahead and do it because of that. And they basically kind of focus on saying, well, what can I do to kind of help myself in this situation? And this is why I think when it comes down to it, we look at trying to say, okay, I want to achieve this goal, but at what cost can I achieve this goal? And I think that's when people run into problems, and they have to kind of go back and say, is this worth it, and doing it. And so when you do this with having sex or intercourse with somebody, you're really, in many regards, you're not only hurting the other person in some regards, but you're hurting yourself. And I think this is something that we have to kind of be aware of when we talk about these type of things, because you're not only hurting the other person, in some ways, whether you care about them or not, you're actually hurting yourself, because something is being taken out of you and the person when you do these type of things. Now, you may not realize that. You may think, well, this is just pleasure. I don't care about the other person that much. I don't care about this. Some people have high body counts and things like that. But this is the lascivious behaviors, and Hollywood is an example of that. So once again, OG, thank you so much for your comments and bringing this person up. Sidney Poitier is somebody that I've always held in high regard. I've never heard any bad stories over the years. Maybe there's things out there, but really compared to a lot of the other Hollywood actors and actresses that I've heard over the years, especially the Playboys and the Rat Pack and these type of things, you're seeing people who, you see a person here who had a lot of foundation and strength in who they were, and chances are they did practice, whether they knew it or not, a lot of retention to create a lot of the energy that he had, especially to live in 94 years. So thanks again, OG, and thanks a lot, guys, for listening. Until next time, battle on!